Have you ever walked into a space and felt the air change, like every conversation paused just long enough for your arrival to register? Or glanced at your phone at the exact second a long-awaited text appeared? Or made a choice that didn't feel like deciding at all, more like recalling something you'd always known deep down? There's this subtle electricity in those instants, a quiet certainty that what's unfolding isn't random chance. It's not luck. It's not mere timing. It's something far more deliberate. You're watching this right now because the result is already locked in. Not because some cosmic script dictated your clicks, but because a deeper part of you recognized the message you needed before your thinking mind even knew to look for it. Out of countless videos, endless feeds, infinite noise, you landed here. That's not accidental. Most people move through life convinced they're steering every turn, when in reality they're responding to signals their conscious awareness hasn't registered yet. They believe they're building their future step by careful step, unaware that their subconscious has already mapped the terrain, read the currents, calculated probabilities their rational brain is still trying to catch up with. Your life has been dropping clues about this moment for weeks, perhaps longer. Little synchronicities you brushed off as flukes. Sudden insights that felt too perfect. Moments when everything lined up in ways logic couldn't explain. You likely chalked them up to chance, but they were never chance. They were signposts guiding you straight to this recognition. There's a profound difference between wrestling reality into the shape you demand and allowing the shape that's already forming to reveal itself. Most people burn themselves out trying to force every piece into place, micromanaging variables, pushing against doors that refuse to budge. They operate from a frantic frequency that insists if they just try harder, plan tighter, desire more fiercely, they can override the natural flow. But that's not how any of this actually operates. The people whose lives seem to unfold with uncanny grace, where doors swing open at the perfect moment and connections appear like they were scripted. They aren't working harder than you. They aren't more clever or more favored by fortune. They've simply learned to sense when they're moving with the current instead of against it. Recall the last time something truly remarkable happened for you. Was it something you muscled into existence through sheer willpower? Or did it feel, in hindsight, almost inevitable once the pieces started moving? Looking back, you can probably trace the thread, the small encounters, the quiet decisions, the seemingly unrelated events that wove together into exactly what your soul required. That wasn't luck. That was resonance. But here's where the misunderstanding usually creeps in. People assume alignment means sitting back passively, waiting for the universe to drop everything in your lap. They confuse surrender with surrender of responsibility. That's not alignment. That's avoidance dressed up as spirituality. True alignment is active clarity. It's knowing yourself so deeply that your choices start reflecting that knowing instead of reflecting fear, scarcity, or other people's scripts. When you're aligned, you stop pursuing results and start embodying the frequency that naturally produces them. You stop begging to be picked and become the kind of person who gets chosen without auditioning. You stop kicking down doors and start noticing which ones swing open when you simply approach. It's not sorcery. It's resonance. It's the difference between paddling furiously against the river and finally turning your boat downstream. Right now, as these words land, you're feeling a subtle shift, aren't you? That quiet click of recognition, like finally admitting something you've known for a while but kept overriding. Maybe you've been trying to make a connection work despite constant friction. Maybe you've been grinding toward a milestone that feels more like obligation than inspiration. Maybe you've been agreeing to things that leave you depleted while ignoring the ones that quietly excite you. The outcome that's already settled isn't some rigid fate scripted in the stars. It's the natural result of you finally stepping out of your own way and aligning with the truth of who you are instead of the story of who you think you should be. When you stop overriding your gut, when you stop silencing the inner voice that's been patiently repeating itself, when you stop settling for what looks acceptable over what feels alive, the entire landscape changes. You show up differently. Your energy broadcasts differently. You make choices from certainty instead of proving. And suddenly the world responds in kind. Not because some external force flipped a switch in your favor, but because you stopped sending mixed signals. You stopped saying, "I want this," with your mouth, while radiating, "I don't believe I deserve it," with your body. You stopped chasing paths that felt heavy while wondering why progress was so hard. Think of all the vitality you've poured into misaligned directions. All the conversations where you performed instead of spoke truth. All the goals you pursued because they sounded impressive rather than because they set your soul on fire. All the times you ignored that soft inner nudge because it didn't fit the practical plan. That scattered energy has been the invisible brake on your momentum. And now that you're seeing it clearly, you can't unsee it. The quiet relief washing over you right now. That's what it feels like to reclaim your power. This isn't about surrendering your agency. It's about redirecting it toward what actually matters. Instead of exhausting yourself, controlling every external detail, you master your inner state, your energy, your clarity, your alignment. Instead of manipulating situations to fit your fears, you become the version of yourself that desired situations naturally gravitate toward. The people whose lives seem to flow aren't secretly controlling more, they're trusting more. They've learned to separate their soul's true calls from the ego's conditioned cravings. They've stopped ramming themselves into spaces that reject them and started moving toward what expands them. And that's exactly where you are right now. You're waking up to something you've always known but kept pushing aside. The outcome that's already in motion isn't an external verdict handed down from above. It's the logical conclusion of you finally ending the civil war between your authentic self and the mask you've been wearing to stay safe. Most people live in quiet internal division. One part knows precisely what would light them up, what feels true, what direction calls to their core. Another part argues endlessly, too risky, too late, too selfish, not practical enough. That tug of war creates a life of friction where nothing ever fully lands. Victories feel empty because they weren't for the real you. Setbacks feel catastrophic because they threaten the fragile story you've built. But when the arguing stops, when you finally side with the quiet knowing instead of the loud fear, the entire game changes. The world stops feeling like an obstacle course and starts feeling like a collaborator. Doors you never noticed swing open. Conversations happen at precisely the right moment. Resources arrive just as you need them. People show up who get you without long explanations. This isn't the universe suddenly liking you better. It's you finally broadcasting a clear, coherent signal instead of static. You're no longer saying, "Come closer" with your words, while pushing away with your energy. You're no longer chasing goals that secretly bore you and wondering why you can't stay motivated. Consider how much power you've leaked keeping up appearances. All the times you said what sounded good instead of what you meant. All the paths you followed because they carried prestige rather than passion. All the inner guidance you overrode because it didn't come with a 5-year guarantee. That diffused energy has been the silent ceiling on your life. And now that you're seeing it, the ceiling is dissolving. The quiet exhale you're feeling in this moment. That's what freedom tastes like. It's not loud or dramatic. It's just the gentle click of everything falling into its natural place, like a dislocated joint finally sliding home. Once you experience that clarity, once you know what it feels like to move from inner truth instead of outer pressure, returning to the old fractured way becomes impossible. You can't unknow what alignment feels like. You can't pretend you don't notice when your energy contracts around certain choices. You can't keep saying yes when every part of you is whispering no. This is why the outcome is already settled. Not because some external authority wrote your ending in advance, but because once you stop betraying yourself in the small daily ways, the larger trajectory becomes inevitable. The path reveals itself not through force, but through the simple act of no longer blocking it. You'll notice how everything shifts when you operate from this place. Conversations deepen when you speak from authenticity instead of performance. Opportunities arrive wrapped in ease rather than struggle when you follow genuine curiosity instead of calculated ambition. Relationships form on solid ground when you show up as yourself instead of as the version you think will be accepted. The old way starts feeling like a costume that no longer fits. Technically wearable, but restrictive, heavy, out of style. Decision-making loses its paralyzing anxiety because you're no longer trying to choose the right option for an imaginary future self. You're simply asking what resonates with the person you are right now, and the answer arrives with surprising simplicity. Life doesn't become free of challenges or effort. It becomes free of self-created resistance. You stop manufacturing extra suffering by forcing yourself into molds that were never shaped for you. You stop swimming upstream and wondering why you're exhausted. And in that release, in that deliberate alignment with your own current, you discover a strength you didn't know you possessed. The kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself, that doesn't require constant proof or validation, that simply moves through the world with quiet certainty. So here you are, at the close of this message that somehow found you at the perfect moment. Something inside has settled. You feel it in the easier breath, in the subtle loosening in your chest, in the way the inner noise has quieted enough for the real signal to come through clearly. This isn't the conclusion of your journey. It's the starting line of the one you've been delaying by trying to be someone safer, smaller, more controllable. The outcome that's already decided isn't a fixed destination carved in stone. It's the natural unfolding that occurs when you finally stop resisting your own becoming. When you stop apologizing for your desires, stop negotiating with your intuition, stop waiting for external permission to live the life that's been calling your name. You arrived here because a part of you was ready to remember what you'd temporarily forgotten. You don't have to earn your right to exist fully. You don't have to prove your value through struggle. You don't have to diminish yourself to fit spaces too small for your light. What's truly yours is already moving toward you, not because you forced it, but because you finally stepped aside and let it through. The only remaining question is how soon you'll stop second-guessing the quiet certainty you felt in this moment. The outcome is already decided. The only variable is how much longer you'll delay living it. The only thing left undecided is how much longer you'll keep postponing the inevitable. How many more cycles of doubt, overthinking, and self-betrayal you'll put yourself through before you finally trust the quiet certainty that sparked inside you during this message. Because once that spark catches, once you remember what it feels like to move from inner truth instead of outer noise, going back becomes unthinkable. You can't unfeel the ease of alignment. You can't pretend you don't notice when something contracts your energy. You can't keep pursuing paths that feel like dragging chains while wondering why you're tired. Life won't suddenly become frictionless or challenge-free, but the self-inflicted friction, the extra weight of forcing, proving, performing, shrinking falls away. You stop generating unnecessary resistance by trying to be someone more acceptable, more predictable, more controllable. And in that release, you uncover a quiet, unshakable power that was always there, waiting for you to stop covering it up. Conversations change when you speak from your core instead of from careful calculation. Opportunities shift from feeling like battles to feeling like natural extensions of who you are. Relationships deepen because you're finally present as yourself instead of as the version you thought would be loved. The old patterns start feeling like ill-fitting clothes, still technically yours, but no longer comfortable or flattering. Decision-making loses its torment because you're no longer trying to satisfy multiple conflicting versions of yourself. You simply ask what aligns with the truth humming in your body, and the answer arrives clean and clear. This is why the outcome feels already decided. Not because every detail is pre-written, but because once you commit to operating from authentic alignment, the trajectory becomes The next steps light up, not through struggle, but through the simple act of no longer dimming your own signal. You'll notice how the world responds differently when your energy is coherent. Doors you never forced swing open effortlessly. Conversations carry weight because they're rooted in truth. Connections form quickly with people who resonate at your new frequency. Resources arrive without the familiar grind. Not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because you stopped broadcasting interference. You stopped saying I'm ready with your mouth while radiating I'm not worthy with your being. What's meant for you isn't waiting for you to become perfect. It's waiting for you to stop standing in your own way. You found this message because the part of you that already knows was tired of being ignored. The part that remembers you don't have to audition for your own life. You don't have to prove your right to take up space. You don't have to earn expansion through exhaustion. The only permission you've ever needed is the one you're finally ready to give yourself. The outcome is already decided, not by fate, but by the irreversible shift that happens when you choose yourself without apology. The only question left is how gracefully you'll step into it. Stop fighting. Start flowing. It's already yours.